Yeah, my name is Mohammed, Mo for short, and I'm from North London.
My name is Sebastian, and I'm from Walthamstow.
So I got into winter sports, specifically snowboarding, 8 years ago, 2012. I was 28 at the time, and I was actually in Dubai, and I was in an indoor ski dome that they've got there, practicing with, well, I wasn't even practicing, we just had some time to kill, me and my cousin, and we gave it a go, nearly killed ourselves on the day. And I liked it so much that when I came back to London, I decided to continue with the sport and do practice over here in the indoor slopes that they have in Milton Keynes and Hemel Hempstead. So I was practicing there for a good few months before I actually went away on the real slopes.
And for yourself?
For me, in my mid-20s, a friend of mine was going on a holiday to France to go skiing with his girlfriend. I was invited along, and I thought, why not? I'd never done it before. It was in a resort called La Plagne, and they had their own chalet right on the actual piste. So it was nice. We just be able to walk out of the balcony and just ski straight down the slopes. So I didn't know how to do it at all. I didn't even know how to stop originally. So I just had to learn, fall over. A few of the friends taught me the basics and had a really good trip. And didn't do it again for about 3 years until mutual friends of ours were going away to Austria to another ski holiday. So I thought I'd get involved and do that. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
No, so when I first got into snowboarding in 2012, 28, 29. Initially I didn't think I was too old because you can be any age to do any sport really, and it was not something I was looking to take too serious in terms of competitions, etc. But the more I started getting into it, the more I started to think, oh, maybe I can do this like semi-professionally. But then when the reality kicked in, I was too old because, you know, the guys, the professionals out there, you know, they're in their late teens, early 20s, and they don't mind breaking bones. But apart from that, that's competition pro level. If we're just talking about generally, just to go out, have fun with your friends, family holiday, you're never too old. You're never too old to do anything. That's how I've always looked at things.
Yeah, definitely not too old, I don't think, because when you're out there you see old people, pension age, skiing and snowboarding really well, and little kids doing it as well. If anything, the feeling was, I wish I started this earlier. That was the main feeling. So it's not like too old now, never too old, but yeah, definitely when you see some of the little kids and how good they are, it's something I think we should all be doing from a younger age.
I would compare it to like driving, for example. I've been driving for a very long time, but it's one of those things where I can only imagine if you haven't driven in your early teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, and you just get your driving test, you just pass your driving test and get your license in your late 30s or your 40s, you're going to think to yourself, why didn't I do this sooner, you know? Because you know what that feeling's like, the freedom to go anywhere, to do anything. It's the same with snowboarding, you know, riding a bike. There's a lot of comparisons between riding a bike and actual skiing or snowboarding.
It's not what you're saying. Live house, that's all your bitch be talking about. So I slide through, then I slide in, take a wipe down, and I slide out like yo.
I don't practice as much as I used to because I feel like I'm at a level where I don't really need to keep on doing go to the indoor places where I used to practice when I first started. When I came back, as I mentioned, from Dubai, and I started practicing over here, it was at a place in Hemel Hempstead, a ski site. You can't remember the name of it. And there's another place in Milton Keynes. They're both indoor snow domes. You go there, you pay your money. You can either do like a monthly payment, or you can pay for a few hours. You do your lessons. You normally have to do about 3 to 5 lessons, and that's where I was practicing initially. And then after I'd done my lessons and you're main slope ready, so to speak, you then can just go whenever you want, because you're main slope ready, so you don't have to have someone teaching you what to do. It's kind of like you've got your driving license now you're free to go on the open road and do whatever you want. So yeah, I was practicing after for about 2 years, still going back to the same place. But now I feel like I'm at a level where I don't really need to waste money in an indoor snow dome. And practice. I just practice when I go away on holiday.
I actually think for most people, I mean for me, I've only done practice lessons while actually on the resort, and a lot of people will do weeks and weeks of practice at Hemel Hempstead or Milton Keynes. But I would always advise people, if you're going on a skiing holiday or snowboard holiday, just take the first 2-3 days, do lessons on the actual slopes there, and you'll probably learn a lot more and advance a lot quicker. So I think the second time I went on a skiing holiday to Bulgaria, I think the first couple of mornings I did a couple of lessons with a proper instructor, taught me how to slow down, how to slalom properly and all that stuff. And after that I've not done a lesson since, and I've just learned on the go, and it's been pretty good. So I would advise newbies to just get out there and do it on site. It's more for the snowboarders. It costs more for snowboarders, generally speaking. Maybe these guys will have their own. The guys we go with will have their own snowboards, so they have to pay to get that. They have to pay for them and pay to get them.
I mean, there's different ways of entering this sport. Really, you can either go down the route of buying your own equipment, or you can rent equipment. Now, if you're going to be practicing in an indoor slope in the UK, then I would advise eventually getting your own equipment if it's a hobby you really enjoy doing. But if you're only going to be going away once a year, once every other year, once every 3 years, there's no point spending £500, £1,000 for just one snowboard. You may as well just rent the equipment when you're out there, because financially it wouldn't make sense. But if it's something you enjoy doing and you're going 3 times a week, then it's definitely worth investing in having your own equipment, whether it's skiing or snowboarding. And just because I said 500 to £1,000, that's the top end. You can actually do things a lot cheaper. When I first started, for example, when I knew this was a sport that I wanted to take on, I didn't actually realise the cost. And that's probably what puts a lot of that puts a lot of people off, because they know it's quite an expensive sport. But when you're getting into it, you don't buy everything all at once. That's not what I did. I went on eBay, bought a second-hand board, started practicing with that. Cost me like 50 quid. Bought some second-hand jackets, some really good jackets, and bought brand new boots. For certain things you have to buy brand new. And yeah, I just started practice, took it on from there. The price for the indoor lessons and the ski passes at these indoor facilities that we have in the UK, they can be quite pricey in the winter season. But what I did was I learned in the summer. So because you don't really tend to have a lot of people go into these indoor ski facilities in the summertime, that's when the prices are a lot more. It's a lot more affordable. So let's say, for example, you may pay like £40 to £60 a month for a monthly ski pass, where you can go any time of the month. Where if you did that in the winter, it would probably be like £40–50 for 2–3 hours. That's the big price difference. So that is when people want to get into it and learn how to ski or snowboard, I would personally advise not doing it in the winter period because the prices could potentially put you off?
I mean, when I don't have my own equipment, well, I go to the resort, I'll rent equipment, so that's not that much really. It's generally, how much do we rent this stuff for?
Well, I don't rent because I have my own boards, which are right here behind. But yeah, no, I think I know with skiing, you can rent different levels of skis, right? You've normally got like your bronze, your silver, your gold.
Sit on the dick, sit on the dick, sit on the dick and ride that shit.
I would say renting skis and the ski equipment is quite cheap. £100 will get you a week's worth, 4 or 5 days worth on the actual slopes equipment wise. The main thing you have to buy is your own gear, your own, actual clothes, which is the main thing you're gonna really need to really get by out there. So get a decent jacket and waterproof.
TK Maxx,
buttons.
you can buy all of that stuff from TK Maxx. They've got a section, winter section. That's how when I first started, like I said, I bought a couple second-hand bits and bobs. But then when I really started getting into it, I realised like you could go, there's a big massive winter section in TK Maxx that a lot of people normally just walk straight past. But when it was a sport that I wanted to get into, when it was something I was getting into, they've got a huge selection of different jackets, different styles for snowboarders and for skiers. So it's very easy to pick up equipment over here.
And I just borrow most of my stuff off the rest of the guys these days anyway, to be honest. So the guys who ain't going or have got a spare jacket or a spare pair or something,
I would normally,
I ain't too proud to ask, man.
I would normally get a call from Sebastian about, a month before we go away, like, Mo, yeah, that night jacket that you've got, yeah, you're gonna use it. You know the one that you used a couple of years ago? I'll be like, no, I'm gonna use that. You'll be like, oh, what about, no, I'm gonna use that. Like, oh, what about, in the end, I might end up lending him some gloves, that he might end up ruining, some mittens that he might end up completely ruining and having to buy them back for me, but that's a different story.
Simply put, when you've got a mountain, you have a section of snow that's been flattened out for people to ski and snowboard on. That's the piste. When people get brave,
the run itself,
the actual run, when people get brave, they want to go through the trees and in the what do you call it? The part of the side of the mountains. That's off-piste basically, where it's just wild. You don't know what's under the snow. You might hit into a tree. So that's where the real adventurers go. In
Europe, they call off-piste, and in the States, they call off-piste the backcountry. So that's a variation. That's a technical term that you'd hear. You'd hear like a lot of Americans saying, "Oh, you're doing backcountry skiing," and in Europe, it's kind of they just refer to it as off-piste.
The piste would be for the layperson, could we describe the piste as the track?
Exactly.
The track,
yeah, the run.
The main bit of snow that everybody goes down.
You've got the guides and the what are they called? The guys that work there that help. You got the staff on the piste, just in case anybody kills themselves or breaks their neck. They can just radio in and get the helicopter to come and save you. If it's that time, normally a helicopter would only get brought in if somebody's done something crazy, like falling off a cliff, off-piste. But if you're on the actual run itself, then they normally just get like one of those snow buggies to take the injured off. So it's not really anything to worry about. You don't just get into the sport and go off piste. People don't go off piste for years. Some people just don't even go off piste because it's not something they want to do. They prefer to be safe, stay on the track, and you can still have just as much fun.
I don't go off piste. This guy goes off piste all the time, but I personally stay to where the run. I know where the run is. And they also have flag systems along the resorts as well. So when you get to the top of a run, you'll have a red flag, a blue flag or a black flag, black being the most difficult, so you'll know your level.
Black runs, yeah. Black. They refer to them as black runs. A red run is like intermediate. Blue run is beginners, and a black run is advanced, quite quite like it will be quite steep, a lot of bumps. You will have to be fairly experienced to go on a black run. A lot of mistake that you'd probably tend to find are the runs can interchange, they can mix to each other, because you could go down a red run and then you might be following your friends, and then all of a sudden, you know, you've thought you're on the red one, but you've taken a right, you've missed the signs, and you're on a black run, and there's no way of getting back up, and you're stuck. You have to go down that run. It happens to everybody, you know, but it's just how you learn, kind of thing. It's like I said, I always refer to it as driving or riding a bike. You could be driving and take a wrong turn down the road and end up on a roundabout, on a double roundabout, and you know you've never been on one before, and you're super scared. You don't know what to do, but you just got to handle it. You know, you take it slowly, and you get through it. You get through the run, and there's nothing more like a sense of accomplishment when you get to the bottom of the run and you feel like, yeah, I just done that. I may have fallen over like 4 or 5 times and I've got a wet bum, but it's an amazing feeling. Yeah, so to talk about the lows of snowboarding, I guess the only thing I would say is the injuries that you can get as well. If you take a big fall, you can be, you know, you can really injure yourself. So I would advise anybody to have proper lessons, and only when they're feeling confident to take on certain slopes, because you know there's nothing worse like going away on a winter holiday. You've paid all your money, you've looked forward to it the whole entire year, and on the first day, on your very first run, you take a drop and you've injured. It hasn't happened to me, but I've spoken to a lot of people where it's happened to, either on the first day or the second day, and that's it. They're on the holiday for a week and that's their holiday done. You know, they might have really had a bad, like bruised their ribs, broken a bone, and you don't want that to happen to you. So you do, as they say, you have to respect the mountain, and the mountain will respect you. If you wanted to ski or snowboard, whatever you wanted to do, the cost specifically, you have to pay for your flight, and then you have to add luggage. Now your luggage would be, if you have equipment, whether you're taking your own skis or snowboard, you have to add that on top of your actual initial flight cost. This is if you was doing it separately, but I think for beginners you'd probably just go with a travel agent and they'll book everything for you. And these trips can range from anything from, you know, £500 to maybe up to $2,000 to up to 10 grand if you wanted to do heli-skiing, you know, where they jump off a helicopter. But going into more depth about costs, things will start to add up if you want to buy your own equipment. But then when you buy your own equipment, you can find things cheap from TK Maxx, on eBay, stuff like that. So you can go within your budget. But I would advise people, really, if it's the first time they're going away, to not worry about bringing anything. Just go away. I think Seb mentioned it. Just rent your equipment. There's different levels. There's, you know, bronze, silver, gold equipment. Find whatever's in your budget. Do the planning beforehand. The travel agent will probably tell you. And yeah,
I'd say cost-wise is more resort specific. If you're going to Bulgaria, places like that, cheaper, they're out of the euro, you could probably get a whole trip in around £500. The main cost, one big cost people don't take into consideration is actually the ski pass, which you actually have to get on the gondolas and go up the mountains. So they can cost quite a lot in some of these more up-class resorts. I mean, when you went to Canada, how much was the ski pass? That was...
When we went to Canada, when we went to Whistler, which is probably like one of the best, it's renowned for being like the best resort in the world. We wanted to do this was my biggest trip. The ski pass alone, I think, was about like £800 or something like that. About £800. It could have been cheaper if we booked it like maybe, I don't know, 3 months prior. You can get it cheap. You can get discounts on the ski lift pass, but because I left it quite to the very last minute, it did cost a lot of money, but that's because it was Whistler. But like Seb said, if you go to somewhere in Europe, France, Bulgaria, you can get ski lift passes for like 200 quid.
The whole trip we're looking at, an average ski holiday, you're looking about £1,000, I reckon.
Exactly. We're
flights, hotels, everything all in, you're looking at about £1,000 for a reasonable resort. If you go to Bulgaria, you might get that down. You might get down to half. You might get that down to £500-600 all in.
Yeah.
But then again, you can decide to go to some fancy place in Switzerland and easily blow 5k, 10k. Depends what you want to do.
I mean, our next trip, so the next trip we're trying to do is for January, February, as long as everything's, good, and we can travel and COVID's not too crazy. We're not in our third wave or anything like that. So we're trying to organise a trip at the moment, and we're trying to do it as cheap as possible, but we're still trying to have somewhere with a little bit of nightlife, with really good resorts. And the prices that we're looking at so far is around about £800 all in. That's transportation, taking equipment, flights, ski pass. So that's what we're trying to achieve at the moment.
And slightly ambitious. I reckon it'll come in about £1,000.
It will come in just under £1,000. I mean, like I said, there are ways of planning your trip. If I was to go alone by myself, I know I could plan it, and it will be probably around about £600-700, because I'll do things differently. Like I'll rent a car, I'll get the cheapest flight, land on a certain day. I won't go on the weekend. So there's ways, just like any holiday, there's ways of making, the trip really, really cheap. But this you would have to really research, which some people just don't have the time for, especially if it's something new you want to get into. You just want to call the travel agent and just get them to do everything for you.
Signing the deal. You shine for real and shit. These hoes know they gotta make the cut before they even make it through the door. And since she love
I went the year before. The first time I went with that crew was the year before Mo. So I didn't know Mo at first. I just knew a few of them guys. I can't remember exactly how it came up, but it was a case of, I think Solomon, one of the guys, was like, yeah, we're going skiing. We're going on a ski holiday. And I said, okay, I'll be up for that, why not? So that's how I kind of met the group. And then a year later, because I know Mo's wife, I've known her family all my life since I was 5 years old or something like that.
Yeah,
so
my wife's godmother is Sebastian's mum. So they've been family friends for forever. And how I was introduced to Seb initially was from the first time when I went, done a practice with my wife and her brother, and he invited all of his friends. I don't think Seb was there that day, but I met a few of the guys there, and then as time went on, I think the first time I met you was it on the trip?
On the trip.
It was actually on the trip, the first trip that we booked away to go to Austria. That was the first time I actually met Seb, and then we realised that we're obviously, a lot closer. And we kind of knew that from before, because when I was telling my family going away with Sebastian, they're like, oh, you know Seb? And obviously I knew Seb through two of the other guys who I met initially. And since then, 2014, so I started learning in 2012. I didn't actually go away on my first trip till 2014. A place called Snowboarding, which is a festival as well, big massive music festival in Europe, Austria, and yeah, since then I think there was maybe about 10 of us. I think there was about 10 of us on that trip, 8 or 10, and since then every year there's always just been one person that's grown. So it's not just a bunch of black guys now. We've got one white guy, we've got a Filipino guy, we've got two white guys actually that snowboard with us. They ski. Actually, they're skiers. And it's just nice to have that dynamic now, because when we go away on holiday sometimes, especially in Europe, people are looking over like, oh, who are all these black guys? They're intrigued. Who are these guys? And when they can see that we can actually, take on their sport, and we're pretty good at it. you know, they're thinking, who are these people? But yeah, it's just nice to have a different dynamic now. If anybody wants to hit me up and ask me any questions about skiing or snowboarding, they can find me on Instagram. But do you lift bro? That's my Instagram. But do you lift bro? My Instagram is nothing to do with skiing or snowboarding. It's more fitness. But I've got a couple of skiing stuff on there, snowboarding stuff. So if you've got any questions, you can ask me. We also have one video, I think, on YouTube. If you type in ShredDemBoyz snow bombing, then yeah, you'd find a video of us just doing a whole load of crazy stuff.
Cool. I mean, I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is sebski007. Again, it's not just skiing holidays, it's all sorts on there, but I can be contacted on there, no problem.